What is up, Packers fans and Pack a Day podcast members? Welcome into our members only Q&A. Thank you so much for being here. If you are not a member and you're listening to this, know that it is live after the fact. They do put it live to everyone. But if you want to make sure that you're getting in live to these and asking questions, make sure to check out those Pack a Day podcast YouTube memberships. For all of you who are here, thank you so much for being here. I missed you guys, first and foremost. I had a great vacation last week to Spain. Missed out on our members Q&A and our happy hour though. So happy to be back chatting with you guys now. And we'll be here Friday for happy hour as well. But enough about that. Let's get into questions right away because that's what everyone cares about. Should be here for a little bit close to an hour. At 3 o'clock, I have the live Bleacher Report show. So we'll get out of here a little bit early so I can do just a little bit of prep for that. But if you want to hop over there after, I will be live on Bleacher Report at the top of the hour as well. Now, let's start with John Kramer. Was listening to Orlovsky and Mina. Good start to the day. Always two great people to listen to. Talk about schemes and trends. Offenses are running a ton, but defenses still play split safety, but have started to bring safeties closer to the line of scrimmage. From a personnel standpoint, this means that you need one really good safeties, two deep threats at wide receiver to prevent safeties from creeping. Packers are good at safety, but what about wide receiver? Can Golden be the guy in year one? Can Watson get back soon and still be that deep threat? Those are the questions that John has. So I think it's a great conversation. And I think this is very much the sort of old fashioned chicken and the egg, but it's just a little bit different, right? Instead of you running the ball well to get that safety dropping in the box and then opening up things down the field, now it's, or vice versa, having the receivers to stretch the field so you can run the ball easier. You want to dictate, right? You always want to be the one that's dictating on offense, meaning that if you can run the ball, you want to get either those safeties to come up or one of the safeties to drop into the box so that now you can hit those deep throws down the field, or vice versa. If those safeties are creeping up, now can you hit those deep shots down the field so you have a lighter box to run into? You have to back those safeties up so it's easier to run the football. It's a constant chicken and mouse game. Before, on defense, kind of as you're mentioning, used to be bring a safety up, keep a safety back, and that's what you're going to do in order to stop the run. Now, both safeties might be back, but they might be closer to the line of scrimmage. It's just a new wrinkle on a tale as old as time sort of concept, right? I do think that, to your point, having good safeties helps that a ton. I'll get to that in a moment. The other side's simpler. Yes, you need wide receivers to stretch the field. I don't think that's anything new, earth-breaking, groundbreaking, earth-shattering, anything like that, right? You have to be able to get those plays down the field, and you have to be able to keep those safeties deep. That you're going to be in much more advantageous situations if that's the case. And to your point, Matthew Golden, Christian Watson, those are two players that are going to be asked to be able to do that with their speed down the field. Maybe Mecole Hardman to a lesser extent if he makes the team. Certainly Dobbs and Wicks and Reed and some of those guys can make big plays down the field as well. But you need that element in your offense if you really want to be a well-versed and multiple offense in everything that you're doing and being the one that is able to dictate what you're doing out on the field. From a safety standpoint, it's a little bit more interesting. What I would argue is if you're playing too high safety, sometimes it can actually mean that your safeties are a little bit less important. Meaning that, what are your responsibilities in that situation, right? Are you manned up? No. Are you blitzing? No. Are you having to play single high safety? No. Are you, usually covering tight ends or running backs one-on-one? No. Like your responsibility, again, it depends what formation you end up going in. And we certainly see a lot of rotations and those sort of things with different zone defenses. But in a too high safety, you're responsible for half the field. And if they hand the ball off, especially now that you're closer to the line of scrimmage, it's the responsibility of the safeties to come in and plug those holes. But now there's two guys that are closer instead of just one guy that has to come closer, or one guy that's left playing true single high. So it's always good to have good players. Don't get me wrong. I'm very happy that Xavier McKinney and Evan Williams are on Green Bay, Javon Bullard, Katana Ladapo, etc. But I do think if you're going to play too high safety, sometimes you can get away a little bit more with having good safeties rather than great safeties. Now, with all the rotations and stuff that Jeff Hafley does to get to a lot of single high looks and do some of those things, yeah, it's going to be very important. And we saw how valuable that Xavier McKinney was this past year. But depending on how your defense operates, and if you are playing a lot of split high safeties or even split closer to the box safeties, sometimes if you're staying split in that look, you can actually get away. It's much more important to have better defensive line play, linebacker play, and outside corner play than it is because you have a little bit more or a little bit less responsibility in that situation as a two safety look, getting either far or close to the line of scrimmage. So just an interesting conversation, but again, just different spin on a same topic that's been there for forever. And hopefully, yes, Williams and McKinney are able to dictate in the middle of the field at safety, and hopefully Golden and Watson and everyone else is able to generate those explosive plays down the field to get those safeties back and be able to make it so that you can run the ball a little bit easier. All right, Andy, while you were gone, lots of Packers fans were clamoring for a Steelers player, and I 100% agree. Go and get Darnell Washington. I'd be all for going and getting Darnell Washington. I think Green Bay could use a true number 3 blocking tight end. I think, why is Pittsburgh giving up on him at this point? Doesn't probably make a ton of sense, but I know you're saying this tongue-in-cheek, chicken, but yeah, if they wanted to go and get Darnell Washington, I would be for it if the price was right. And I think him backing up both Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave, really just basically making it so that you've got Tucker Kraft as your number 1 tight end, and you're basically platooning Musgrave and Washington at that point. One is your receiving tight end, one is your blocking tight end. I'd be all for it, but I wouldn't want to give up a ton for Darnell Washington, depending on what it would take to get him. Would you be interested in a Nyheim Hines vet minimum signing if Keyshawn doesn't return kickoffs, or would you leave that to Hardman and Savion? Yeah, I'd let other players have a chance at kick returner. Hines coming off of a couple years of injuries here, being a little bit older at running back. No, I wouldn't really have any interest in that at this point. So I would say pass. And I think there's other players on the roster who could handle those kick return duties. Don't remember if it was a Q&A or vid, but you used the term mercenaries when referring to players the Packers signed in 2021, like Jalen Smith and Whitney Merciless. Who are some players who the Packers could sign to fill that same role later in the season? I wish I had an answer for that, chicken, and I really don't like saying I don't know. But really, in order to know what mercenaries they could sign mid-season, you have to kind of know what players are available mid-season. So, for example, just to kind of use one right now, if Rasul Douglas remained unsigned, right, just couldn't find a team. I don't expect that to be the case. I think he'll find a team before the start of the season. But if he went into the season and is like available week 5 or 6, 7, something like that, and you have Carrington Valentine go down for the season or something like that, could you bring in a Rasul Douglas? Sure. Like that would be a sort of mercenary type signing midway through the season. Agbo Okarango is somebody who was just cut by the Cleveland Browns. Is coming off a bad season, probably not really any interest in that right now. But maybe Colin Oliver goes down, and maybe you had a specific role in mind for Colin Oliver. Agbo Okarango could fill that role very similarly. So I think those are type of players that if they're available week 6, 7, or 8, and you need a player to fill a spot because of an injury, you go and look out there and see if you can find one of those mercenary type players. Jared Valdir was that type of mercenary player. They've had a variety of them, and sometimes they work out, like Valdir, Whitney Merciless did to some extent before the injuries. And then, others like Jalen Smith did not. So I think it's an interesting conversation, but until we know, week 6, week 7, who's actually available, it's a tough question to obviously answer. In this down part of the year, how about Andy and Justice duel it out in some college football or Madden? No, my stick skills are gone. This is not like riding a bike. I will make no bones about it. I was definitely what I felt one of the best Madden players back in the day when it was around college or right after college. Would get ranked easily in the top 500, sometimes in the top 100, finished well in Madden tournaments and things like that. It's gone. It's all gone. It's a nightmare. Like legitimately, I think if I played my 8-year-old right now one-on-one, I might lose that battle. So I've dedicated a lot to this channel and to building Pack-A-Day, and to that's my hobby, is watching film and looking at draft stuff and talking to you guys. Like that's what fills my time now. So my stick skills are gone, my friend. I don't think that they're ever going to come back. And I'm retired. I'm retired as a Madden and college football player. So I'm sure if I was still playing, I would love to do that stuff. It'd be a ton of fun, but unfortunately, those days are over. Really love the episodes recently with Justice actually explaining how the Packers operate differently from other teams in order to stay in Green Bay. Stuff I never thought about before. Glad you liked it. Go Pack. Thanks so much for being here, and thanks for being a member. Hey there, Andy. Love the show. First question. It's easy to see Hafley improved our defense. Do you think the defense takes an even bigger leap next season now that he and the players are more acclimated? That's the simple explanation, right? You have a defense that performed well one year. You bring back a lot of the same players, get a couple guys back via injury, add a couple pieces via the draft, are now more well versed in that defense in year two. And that arrow should be pointing up. You also have to look at other things, right? They didn't add anything significant. I mean, I guess Nate Hobbs, to some extent, I do think going from Stokes to Hobbs is going to be a pretty big step. But they didn't add a ton on defense this offseason. And now there is tape on what Jeff Hafley likes to do on defense, a full year's worth of tape. Maybe that matters. Maybe it doesn't matter at all. Maybe Jeff Hafley adds so many wrinkles this offseason that maybe it looks like an entirely different defense in 2025. I would like to believe that they can be as good or better, but being a top 10 defense year over year is a very tough thing to do. And I think Jeff Hafley and this defense is going to have their work cut out for him. I think losing TJ Slayton in the middle of that defensive line is going to hurt them from a run stuffing standpoint. I think it's going to take everyone working together again to make sure that they are stout at the point of attack against the run, which really set them up. It was such a huge issue in the Joe Barry era because if you go back and watch Joe Barry on third and longs, they were good. They were a good defense most of the time in those situations. They could not get in those situations. They wanted to play that too high safety, and they were not willing to commit that extra safety to the box. They were just letting teams run on them and get 6, 7, 8 yards. It would constantly be third and short or never even getting to third down in the first place. And it was a huge issue. So I think them being much better on early downs this past year, eating their vegetables so that they could, eat their desserts on third down was really important for that team. And they're going to have to show up again in run defense and not just take it for granted. Guys like Kenny Clark, Rashawn Gary are going to be massively important to that run defense up front. And hopefully they're up to that challenge. Youth on the roster is great, but you also need vet leadership. What young players show that leadership potential that you'd like to see stay? I think Jordan is finding his voice a little bit more and more, obviously, as a leader at quarterback. Josh Jacobs certainly has it at running back. I think the wide receiver room is a really interesting one. It's kind of why I like McCole Hardman potentially staying, is because I think he can be a leader in that wide receiver room. Although I think Jaden Reed has the ability to be that in time as well. I think Matthew Golden might have the ability to be that as well. I think Tucker Kraft's a leader in the tight end room. I think they have multiple leaders on the offensive line. But I think Elton Jenkins certainly holds a lot of high regard amongst the offensive linemen with that group. Kenny along the defensive line certainly is the vet leader on that group. Linebacker is a bit more interesting, but I think, I think Edgerrin Cooper will find that over time. Quay Walker, I actually think is, you hear anybody talk about Quay and they talk about him glowingly. And I think his leadership is a huge part of that. At corner, I think Keyshawn Nixon has some of those leadership traits. I think so does Nate Hobbs, if they want to tap into that a little bit more. And certainly Xavier McKinney at safety. So I think they have a, kind of bona fide leader in each of those positions going forward. But I am interested to kind of see, outside of some of the ones that we know already, there's maybe one or two more guys that kind of have their voice heard a little bit more as the next couple seasons go along. If I had to suit up for Sunday, what position are you playing and what's the final stat line? Yeah, this one's pretty easy. There's only one that is even remotely within the realm of possibility, right? It's punter. I can't long snap because I think just in general, that's a very learned skill. And I'd have to still go down and tackle people. That's not going to end well. I'm just going to get blown up. So I can't be a long snapper. I certainly can't play any real position. Let's be real about that. If I spent enough time with a kicking coach in an off season, maybe I could consistently hit 30 yarders. That doesn't do you a whole hell of a lot of good. You're usually going for it in that range of the field anyway. So that has no value. If I spent enough time with a kicking or a punting coach, I don't know, maybe I could hit a 30-yard punt consistently, which sucks. But if I had to be utilized in some way, I think maybe I could find a way to get sneaky 30-yard punts or maybe rugby style punt some down the sideline or things like that and not get completely obliterated. So I think punter is really my only option here. Now, if you could tell me I could be the third string quarterback and, that might top 2 quarterbacks who are going to stay healthy all throughout the year, that would be a great place for me to be. But assuming I had to actually play, I think only punter is my only option at this point. All right, second question. While watching last season, I truly think the injuries to Love really affected his confidence in play. I believe we will see Jordan Love of late 2023 continue. What are your thoughts? Yeah, totally agreed with injuries. I think it played a part. I think, as I've talked about on numerous occasions as well, I think the lack of rhythm and timing and practice time with his wide receivers and just the offense in general really played a massive part in it as well. We, at the end of 2023, saw an offense that had a lot of rhythm and a lot of timing. Every single time the ball left Jordan's hands, you were just expecting it to cleanly fall into a Packers receiver's hands in stride. And we just didn't see that same consistency at the end of last year. And I think the lack of practice time, or the missed practice time, really affected Jordan and the receiver. So I think not only just being healthy, but being able to practice week in and week out would be a huge win for this offense as well. Thank you, Zillerson. I had a fantastic vacation. It was a great time with the family. Highly recommend. Batteries feel a little bit recharged, a little bit still like kind of jet lagged at the moment. So, but mentally feel like the batteries are recharged quite a bit. So it was good. I have another mini one coming up next week. Going to be spending Thursday through Sunday in the Dells next week. And then following week is training camp already. It came really, really fast out of nowhere. So I'm excited for it. But yeah, I have one more mini one coming up. Why is everyone down on 55 for a rotational player? He closes when he is in the backfield, not the most consistent, but what backup is. I think he's pretty good for what he is. Yeah, this is, I feel like I'm kind of the one leading the charge, Jason, on being ready to kind of move on from Kingsley Enagbare. There's multiple things at play here. When you are on a vet minimum salary, you get a lot of leeway, right? And he's basically here. He was over the last 3 years, basically on like a minimum salary, making less than $1 million per year. You're a mid-round draft pick. Anything that you add to the team is of some value, right? Well, the issue is his playing time got him an extra $2 million plus on his salary this year. So he's now set to make over $3 million. So you look at a $3 million contract, somebody that's in a contract year, an unrestricted free agent, and I think is coming off a bad year. I thought he had a worse grade than any of the other primary edge rushers, including Brenton Cox, LVN, Rashawn Gary. It was a step down from everyone else. I thought it was one of the more under talked about disappointing performances of 2024 was Enigbare's. I didn't think he was as consistent against the run. And again, as a rotational guy in a minimum contract, it's not the end of the world. But once you bump that salary up to $3 million, I think it changes the perspective quite a bit. So to me, it wasn't consistent. I don't think he got in the backfield like you're talking about enough. And I'd rather right now see LVN, Rashawn Gary, Colin Oliver, Baron Sorrell, Brenton Cox. Like I can get to 5 pretty quickly that I think I'd rather see out there at the moment. And if that's the case, you don't want to necessarily be paying $3 million for a 6th defensive end. So it's not the end of the world if he's on the team. I think he can still be a solid player and hopefully just has a better 2025 than he did at 2024. Not like, oh my God, this guy's terrible. But I just think that the connotation of the contract definitely changes the conversation a little bit for Enagbare this upcoming year. All right, TJR, how was our offense so statistically good last year when they felt so bad on TV? It seemed like we only got one real drive a half most games. Yeah, I do think that there is some interesting sort of, I don't want to know if I want to say like fool's gold or just sort of like analytics that you have to maybe take a little bit of a closer look at. DVOA loved Green Bay's offense. The box score loved Green Bay's offense. Statistically, they still scored a good chunk of points. I just think we have this idea in Green Bay of what like a supercharged offense looks like. I think what you have to realize is in the NFL, like, offense is hard. Defenses are really, really good. And putting up points and getting to 30 and consistently moving the football is a really, really difficult thing to do. And I think Green Bay's offense was good last year. I don't think it was great. I definitely don't think it was great. And again, I know you look at some of the stats and it at times looks like they were a great offense. I don't think they were that. I do think they had a little bit of fool's gold in some games against Miami, New Orleans, against some bad teams and things like that. And more specifically, when they played against some of the good teams, they weren't as good on offense, although they put up points against Philly in the first game. a couple of those games, or at least one of the games against Detroit, one of the games against Minnesota. So they definitely still had some games where they showed that they were capable of it. But I just think what you're looking for on offense is a little bit more consistency and a little bit more dictating on their side of things, and certainly a little bit better offense in some of those big games. So I think it was a good offense last year. I think it was a good baseline to have, considering you had 3 games of Malik Willis, a beat up Jordan Love, wide receiver core that took a step back, and an offense that had a Josh Jacobs performance that was really good, but almost felt like it existed outside of the Matt LaFleur offense at times. Didn't feel like it was always cohesive with the passing game. I expect it to be a lot more cohesive this upcoming year, and I'm hoping that that's clearly the case. Good to see you, Andy. Hope everyone is having a blessed day. Go Pack Go. Appreciate you, Kenny. Good to see you as well. Barnesy, thank you for the super chat. Gun to my head, I don't prefer to be in that situation. What wide receiver ends up being our number 1 by the Eagles Monday game? Gun to my head, I'm going to tell you, I don't think they have a number 1 wide receiver. I don't think they have any expectations of having a number 1 wide receiver. And I just think with Josh Jacobs and Tucker Kraft and all the mouths to feed in this offense, don't think there's a ton of oxygen or space for somebody to really evolve into like a 80 catch, 1,600 yard, 10 touchdown type of player. If you ask me right now, who in that Philadelphia game in a 3rd and 8 have to have it, who Jordan Love is looking at, I'd probably still say I think Romeo Doubs is who he's going to look to in that situation. But I think in an ideal world, Matthew Golden looks great. Wicks looks great. Reed looks great. Dobbs looks great. Kraft looks great. Jacobs looks great. And they can run the play the way that the play is designed and don't have to say, well, we got to find a way to get the ball to so-and-so here. Run the play. That's going to be best in that scenario. Everyone has the ability to win. And then Jordan Love can get the ball out of his hands and let his receivers do the heavy lifting. That's the best case scenario. I would love if all of a sudden somebody became the next Devontae Adams, sign me up. But my guess is they probably don't have one, and the ball gets spread pretty well between all of the crazy weapons that they have in this offense. Who is the best number 22 in Packers history? Pat Lee, clearly. Let me see. I have to look at who all wore it. Oops, that is not the right number. There we go. Yeah, the first one that did come to mind for me was Elijah Pitts. Now, I always struggle because I never got to see Elijah Pitts play. Obviously, I'm very aware of how good he was, and I did know he did wear number 22. That was what immediately came to mind. So yeah, I'll probably just go Elijah Pitts, and after that, it might end up being hopefully it's just Matthew Golden. Not a lot of great number 22s in Green Bay history. So yeah, clearly Elijah Pitts. But I think Matthew Golden has a really good chance of being the second best player to wear it. It's kind of crazy in their history. They've not had better 22s. Just ready to watch the team play some football. Miss my football Sundays, Mondays, and Thursdays. Amen, Landon. I'm right there with you. Welcome back, Andy. Hope you had a great vacay. 2 non-Packers questions for you. All right, let's do it. What is your ranking of Wisco Pro Sports GMs, and how are you feeling about the Bucs so far? All right. GMing in baseball is, I don't want to say it's like a mystery box or like a blank space for me or anything like that, but I don't know that I have quite a feel on it. It's Arnold, right? Who's the GM for the Brewers right now? I think it's like, what is it? Dan Arnold? Matt Arnold. So yeah, it's Matt Arnold for the Brewers. Obviously, Horst for the Bucks, and then Goody for Green Bay. Again, I don't know enough about like the Brewers draft decisions, and I know that their farm system is incredible at the moment, and it has a lot of upside. Obviously, Mizorowski's tearing it up right now. I think they've done a really great job with their international signings, and Jesus Madej, and then of course Jackson Churio, amongst others. So I might go Dan Arnold right now, and then followed by Goody. And then did I say Dan? Is it Matt Arnold? Whatever. You get my point. Matt Arnold, and then Goody, and then probably Horst as the third. I do appreciate Horst's aggressiveness, but I think this is going to end poorly. But he got a championship, so that's all that kind of matters. As far as the Bucs situation, I'm split. I think it's incomplete at the moment because I think they if they're going to make these sort of moves and stretch Dame and go and get Miles Turner, I think you have to be all in. So I think their 2031 unprotected first has to get traded. I think they have to use every swap, every move that they can do to make the team the best that it can be really now. Either now or at the trade deadline. I think they're going to have to figure out a way to move Kuzma, probably attaching those picks to it. And, figuring out a way to just balance this roster a little bit more. Love if they could get Bradley Beal. It seems like he's probably headed to the Clippers. So yeah, my gut says I love that they're being aggressive, and I think you have to do that with having Giannis on your team. But I don't think they're going to be able to put a championship team together, and I think they're going to have some long-term pain because of this, which probably ends up making it a bad move. What gives me a little bit of being able to at least play devil's advocate to that is I believe that they know that if this goes poorly this year, it's probably not only time for Giannis to move on, but it's probably time for the Bucks to say, all right, we gave it one last swing. Now we need to nuke this thing. And we know that based on this offseason, Giannis can get $1 billion assets, right? All the assets from an OKC or some other team, San Antonio, whatever. Like they're going to get a just crap ton, a treasure trove of stuff in a Giannis trade. And I think Miles Turner now would have value. I think there's some other players that could potentially have some value, and they can start building that back up once they kind of nuke it down. I think if it were me, I think I would have gone in the opposite direction. I think once I saw that Dame had the Achilles injury, I think that would have been the writing on the wall for me to say, let's eat this contract over the next 2 years. Let's trade Giannis now while he's at his most valuable, get everything that we can under the sun for him, and just try to maximize the rebuild the best that I possibly can. You got the championship, but I also understand like it's Giannis. That's not an easy decision to make, and you have to really decide if that's the direction that you want to go in. So I like the aggressiveness. I think it's going to end up being a mistake, but I do think they can put out a pretty interesting lineup out there. And I'll just say I'm intrigued, if nothing else. All right. More depressed over the summer than anything else. God, I need sports in my life. Yeah, thankfully, I mean, if you're a Wisconsin sports fan, thankfully the Brewers are really fun right now. Where are we at today? They're playing the Dodgers right now. 0-0, bottom of the fifth. Pitching continues to be impressive. I love Quintana right after Mizorowski. Two totally different pitchers. It's got to be just a mind, what, for opposing hitters. So hopefully the Brewers can pull out this one. Although Dodgers have 2 guys on with 2 outs right now. So big time situation at the moment. But yeah, Brewers got to keep me interested up until, I guess really even just a couple more weeks once training camp starts, but they've done a good job of doing that. And this Bucks offseason has been interesting as well, but I get it. Ball season needs to get here. Just watched your video from last summer again, looking ahead to 2025. Super interesting at this point to hear your perspective back then. Love watching old videos like that. Dustin, if you can, if you're still in the chat, hit me up. I'd love to know what some of like kind of the key conversation points were in there. Might be something I have to go revisit as well. I actually just put in my notes today to do one for 2026 coming up of like what next year potentially looks like and the decisions that they'll have at that point in time. So just reminded myself to do that in the near future. But if you're still in the chat, hit me up with some of the key takeaways from that one. What does my normal Sunday look like on a Packers away game day? And what does it look like if you did a game stream? All right, I'll answer that second part first. At the moment, and I might change my mind at any given second on this. At the moment, I don't have any interest in doing a live game stream. I shouldn't say that. I'm interested, but not motivated. That's probably the better way to put it. I am interested. I am intrigued. I do think a part of it would be fun. But one of the things I told myself when I started doing this, and some of you have maybe heard this story in the past. When I was in high school, I started coaching my sister's soccer team. And I basically stopped playing soccer to coach soccer. And coaching soccer very quickly became my favorite thing in the entire world. If you asked me at the time, if you could be doing anything at any moment, what would you want to be doing? I would say I want to be coaching soccer. It was my single favorite thing, more than Packers, more than anything else. And right in college, I got a job, a head coaching job with a high school. I was the head JV coach and assistant varsity coach for a high school boys team at age 20, and was probably on a trajectory to go on and can make really a career out of coaching soccer. And I got the job and I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. I get to do the thing that I love more than anything in the world. And now I get paid for it. And what happened? I started not hating it, but really just not enjoying it. Having to be certain places at certain times, and just sort of some of the drama that came with the parents, and having to do certain things because I was paid to do it, and like it just became not as fun anymore. And when I started covering the Packers, even just for fun, one of the things that I promised myself was, if at any point you start hating this, stop, because my fandom of the Packers is, amazing. It's one of the things that I truly love in this world. And if at any point in time that was going to be in question, I was like, you have to step back or figure out a way to make that not happen, because that was the last thing I wanted. Is this just to become another job where I hated doing it, and now I ruined one of my favorite things in the world and my fandom of the Packers? So one of the ways that I've kind of preserved that feeling of just still being able to be a fan of the team is when the game's on, I get to watch the game. Now, my analytical mind can't really turn off. In the regular season, it can't. In playoff time, I can definitely I can turn it off and just be a fan. But in regular season, I have a lot tougher time with it. So it's not entirely the same, but not at a negative, not at anything that is bothersome or anything like that. But I'm not super motivated at the moment to be now to the point where I'm not even able to kind of just cleanly watch the game and enjoy the game in and of itself. So on a normal away game right now, depending on the time of the game, I'm not at the game, right? So usually I'll do a pre and or post game. I think I want to try to do both of those this upcoming year. So do a pre-game, live pre-chat, watch the game, do a live post-game chat, and do that, enjoying the game in the middle. But also, I think the other thing that I'll note here as well is one of the reasons that I'm able to have, I think, a knowledgeable live post-game chat is because I'm able to kind of take notes during the game and focus on it more during the game. If I'm doing a live show, doing a live stream during the game, I'm just watching it and kind of reacting, not really able to maybe put some of the threads together as much as I can and then go live right after the game. So not out of the question, not something I'm entirely against, but something at the moment, again, I'm not motivated to do. I do know that YouTube now, because they have YouTube TV in the contract with the NFL, what they're going to be doing is allowing NFL content creators to do true side-by-sides. So you would be able to, with some content creators, I don't think I'm going to be one of these out of the gate or anything like that, but with some content creators, basically have it so that on your screen, on your YouTube TV screen, is both the game and me. So instead of hearing like Aikman and Buck or whatever, it'd basically be me breaking down the game. So they're going to start doing that with certain people. If YouTube came to me and is like, we want you to do this, and, we want you to be one of the people who has a channel that can like actually have the game right on it, that would probably be enough to get me over the edge. I would probably say yes to it, at least for a season, and let it play out. So I'm not entirely ruling it out, but for now, I don't plan on doing it, at least this upcoming season. All right, Derek, Andy, since you're a bit of a food snob, what was your favorite meal in Spain? This is going to come as a surprise to nobody, but it actually was pizza. But there was this phenomenal in Tenerife. There was this phenomenal Italian restaurant, like legit phenomenal Italian restaurant. And it's interesting. I actually don't. No, I did get pizza at that place. So yeah. So I got a margarita pizza. My son got a pepperoni pizza. The margarita pizza was phenomenal. One of those where it's a wood-fired pizza, and just the crust was perfect. The cheese was perfect. The sauce was perfect. The basil was perfect. Like everything, and it had the right consistency, the right crisp, the right everything. It was a 10 out of 10 pizza. So that was the best. On our last day, we actually were trying to go to a different Italian restaurant in Madrid, and we didn't have a reservation and they didn't have any openings. So we went to a tapas. We were deciding between two places, the Italian place and the tapas place. And we went to a tapas place right down the street from the Italian place. And that was the best Spanish food. I don't even remember what the hell we got in totality. We got some, what is it? Iberica ham or whatever it is. That was or some pork, I should say. It was it was cooked like a steak. It was phenomenal. That was really good. And I forget, we had like 2 or 3 other things, or maybe even 3 or 4 other things that we got at the table. And just every bite was amazing. And then the one other one I'll add to is we went to a Argentinian restaurant in Madrid as well. And it was like a steakhouse. And I had a strip steak. My son had a tenderloin. We got some other stuff as well. And that was really fantastic. So different types of food, a lot of tapas, a couple of times we had Italian. I had a really great plate of pasta as well while I was out there. But yeah, some really, really good food. 1, did they have Luigi's Pizza in Spain? 2, how did I survive? They did not. This is 100% real. 100% real. My first real meal back in Green Bay was a Luigi's Pizza. Swear to God, swear on it. I did have a quick trip burger on the way home. So I needed a cheeseburger. I'm like, I need a cheeseburger in my life. So I had a cheeseburger, but then my first real meal back in Green Bay was legitimately, swear to God, a Luigi's Pizza. And it was freaking amazing. It was the fresh dough pepperoni, by the way. Let's say there are football gods and the god of receivers visited me in a dream and asked me to choose who would be wide receiver 1. And I chose the ball with Romeo Dobbs written on it. Would I be wrong? Yeah, I think so. So I'm going to assume here, Dan, I guess it depends on how you're asking the question. If you're saying like who could be wide receiver 1 or like who would be your choice, like your favorite receiver and you wanted to pick Romeo, that's a fine answer. There's no wrong answer there. If you're saying like if each of these receivers was able to meet their ceiling and become wide receiver 1 and be like a like unbelievable wide receiver, you have 3 possible answers. And in fact, you have two real answers. You could say Christian Watson, because I think Christian Watson reaching his peak is freaky, but Christian Watson gets injured a lot and has 1 year left on his contract. So I wouldn't choose that one. Also wouldn't choose Dobbs because Dobbs has 1 year left on his contract. I probably wouldn't go Wicks or Reed because I do think they don't have the height, weight, speed kind of quite as much as some of the other ones. Your answer has to either be Matthew Golden or Savion Williams. And it might honestly be Savion Williams. To me, if that dude, all of a sudden, if you told me that dude was wide receiver 1 year 1, look the hell out. Because he has the height, the weight, the speed, the big time catch. He's on a rookie contract. I think that's probably actually the right answer. I actually don't think that there's a receiver with as much upside as Savion Williams on the entire roster. Christian Watson would be probably the one that could maybe debate that. So I think my answer is actually Savion, but certainly Matthew Golden is massively talented as well, also on a rookie contract and could clearly be a dominant wide receiver. So based on their contract status, their length on the team, and potential high-end upside, I would either go Savion Williams or Matthew Golden. And I actually think my answer to that would be Savion Williams. All right, NFL and NCAA get in absolutely massive trouble for trust laws and stuff, and there's no game for 5 years. What does Andy do for work? There's options, right? I could transition the channel to something Brewers or Bucks or just Wisconsin sports, right? Try to make it that way, and if that doesn't work out, kind of go back to more traditional job. I have the radio show still, so that's something. If I could make the podcast into something just remotely different where it gets even a fifth of the listenership, I should probably be like, okay. But the real answer is I probably go back to what I was, or at least try to go back to what I was doing just a couple of years ago. I was the director of recruiting for a staffing agency. I really enjoy recruiting a lot. So I would probably try to do something like that, or yeah, that's probably the answer. PFF thinks the Panthers offensive line is better than both the Packers and the Lions. So embarrassing for them. I haven't looked at the Panthers O-line in a hot second. That O-line ranking was nuts, was absolutely crazy. All right, so Conwu at left tackle, Damian Lewis at left guard, Corbett at center, Hunt at right guard, Morton at right tackle. Not a ton in terms of depth. Josh Neiman, Brady Christensen, not much else. I think their starting lineup is fine. I think Okonwu and Moten can be good tackles. Akonwu certainly has a ton of upside. Damian Lewis and Hunt are fine guards. They spent a crap ton on Robert Hunt. Corbett's fine at center. He just needs to stay healthy. I think it's a good offensive line. But yeah, I would take the Packers over that. Welcome back, Andy. I hope you and your family enjoyed your time on our side of the ocean. It was great, Mirko. Thanks so much. Jordan Love aside, a serious injury to which player would harm the Packers the most? Probably McKinney. I just think he's so damn good. They have. All right, let me think here. They have safeties that are good, and they can probably get by without it. I don't think there's a good enough corner to make it that much of a difference. Cooper would sting a ton. Rashawn would sting a ton. Kenny Clark would still sting quite a bit. Zach Tom would sting a ton. Tucker Kraft would really burn. I'm going to actually say Zach Tom. I just think keeping Jordan upright and clean is super important. I think you can get by with Bullard and Williams at safety if need be. So my gut, and I think Lloyd, Wilson, Brooks could get you by at running back. Jacobs would certainly be another huge loss. So you could make arguments for, I think, Jacobs, Zach Tom, Xavier McKinney, Rashawn Gary, Kenny Clark. Those would probably be the top of the ones. But I just think Zach Tom is kind of the linchpin of that offensive line and really the one that, makes it up a whole different notch and a whole nother level. So I'm going to go Zach Tom, but certainly a few that you could put in that conversation. Taylor Elgersma and Jordan Love aside. All right, that's much better, Mirko. Thank you for correcting it. Do you think Matt LaFleur will limit Lloyd's workload in the beginning because of past injuries, or do you think he will start as the number 2 and no limit on the workload? I'm really excited about Lloyd. I don't think Marshawn Lloyd's workload is remotely in Matt LaFleur's, concerns at the moment. What I will say is Lloyd's guaranteed to make the team, but he's not guaranteed to be the number 2 running back. I think Lloyd's going to have to battle with Emmanuel Wilson and Chris Brooks for that number 2 running back spot. I think it's going to be a really fun battle in camp, and I think Wilson and Lloyd will fight tooth and nail for it. So I think they're going to get those guys playing time. I think they'll be maybe semi-cautious, but no, Lloyd had a year of, I don't want to say like rest and relaxation, but no wear and tear on the body. So he should be fresh, ready to go. He has very minimal carries on his body overall. He has 291 career rushing attempts and only 34 receptions. He touched the ball 325 times in college. And he had like 5 touches a year ago. I mean, he has like 330 touches on his body in his entire college and NFL career so far. There should be no fresher running back in the entire NFL than Marshawn Lloyd. So no, I think you are ready to get him going, but I think he's going to have to earn that number 2 spot. I think he will, but I think he's going to have to earn it. October 26th, we visit the boogeyman himself, Rodgers, in his new house. Who are you taking for the W? I think it's going to be a really tough game, primarily because I think the Steelers are either coming off a Thursday night or a bye. I know they get some extra rest going into that game. I think it's a Thursday night. And then Green Bay also comes all the way from Arizona. So you go out to Arizona and have to go out to Pittsburgh. It's not the worst case scenario in the world. It's not exactly like Seattle to Miami or something like that, but it's definitely still a stretch. I think Green Bay's the better team. I don't have a ton of faith in Rodgers as big time quarterback anymore, but he's going to be ultra motivated in that game. I'm going to slightly say Pittsburgh, but I think Green Bay's going to have a really good chance overall to win that game. Strange to me how the players now grew up watching the Pats players take less money to win the Super Bowl, then turn around and want to reset the market every time. Brady was the one who did this. Brady's really one of the only ones. The Patriots players as a total did not. And what I would actually make the argument for is every player should be trying to get as much as they possibly can. That is beyond their right. And you don't know how long this thing is going to last. And this is your career. You don't have a backup career coming out of the NFL. You have to start from scratch coming out of it. So you should be trying to get everything that you can. The other thing is, I know a lot of players view it, especially at like top of the market, view it as their duty to get as much as they can so that the next player behind them can get as much as they can. Players should never worry about what an NFL team's finances are. I get Brady did it. I understand. He also had not only his crazy salary, but he had his supermodel wife's crazy salary as well that was coming in. So, it was probably very much pennies on the margins to him. But no player should have to do that. And the truth of the matter is, for the most part, there's always exceptions, but for the most part, if like Justice was talking about yesterday or for today's show, if Green Bay wanted to go and get TJ Watt right now, they don't need to ask Jordan to take less money. They can borrow from future years and they can find that money. They can go out and get TJ Watt if they wanted to right now. It's going to have some long-term effect, no question, but they can do it. So it's never to me about the player and taking less money. If you really want to, if the Packers really want to go get a player, they can go get that player. So the player should always look out for themselves. And I don't think it's anything that anyone should ever be asked to do is take less of their own money. There's not a single one of us. You can look at football outside of the purview of real jobs. There's not a single one of us that's taking less money in our jobs so that, the rest of the staff at your organization can get paid a little bit more. It's not how things work, for better or worse, but I don't think anyone should have to be tasked with taking less money. Andy, I have a strange question to ask. There was a video of Matthew Golden dropping the N-bomb a lot. Do coaches ever get at players for using vulgar language during practice and games? I don't think so. I don't know. I've never seen it. I've never heard it. I mean, it's a pretty lax atmosphere for the most part. I don't think that's, again, at top of mind for Matt LaFleur in any way, shape, or form. So I also know that like Matthew Golden is, by all accounts, seemingly a pretty stand-up guy, and a couple swear words isn't going to certainly change that in any way, shape, or form. So I think they really focus on getting quality individuals overall. I don't think that they're really caring whatsoever. And usually, by the way, from my experience, if I hear cursing on the sidelines, it's coming from a coach, not a player. Almost if you were to say like you're on the sidelines, the next swear word you're going to hear, you have to put money on it. Is it going to come from a player or a coach? I'm betting the house that it's coming from a coach. So I don't think it's of concern at all. The food takes. Thanks, Andy. Pizza in Spain, but not a shocker. Yeah. Again, what I will say, that was not what I was expecting going in. Obviously, I've been to Italy, been to some phenomenal true Italian restaurants in Italy. I'll actually tell you, there's too many authentic Italian restaurants in Italy. I get for there, it's just restaurants, right? But like, I could not look at another pasta carbonara or another cacio e pepe by the time I got done with Italy. I swear to God, every single restaurant was the exact same 10 pastas. And that was like it. You have like a couple other things here and there. But like, I got to my final day. I was in Venice on my last day. And I got to a restaurant and they had like all pastas again. And they had one steak. And I'm like, I can't look at a pasta at the moment. Like, please give me the steak. But no, I had a lot of great, authentic Italian food. I was not expecting to go to Spain, by the way, and having great Italian restaurants. And we went to two phenomenal Italian restaurants. One in particular, we were set to go to another, just kind of happened that way. But they had some really, really good Italian restaurants there. And so there was certainly a real true Italian influence as well. What's the craziest thing that you would do in exchange to bring another Lombardi trophy back home? I don't know. It would be something absurd, I am sure, off the top of my head. I don't know, but there's something there's a wide range of things. I know that much. I don't have anything crazy or unique or creative off the top of my head, but there would be a lot of things I would do. I'll put it that way. What's the likelihood Simmons has a breakout year with half and we keep him over Quay? Extremely, extremely minimal. Extremely minimal. I think Simmons will be the fourth or fifth linebacker on the team. I think Quay will be the starter. I think Quay will be back next year. And Simmons will primarily be a special teams guy. The weirdest, if you told me that Simmons was on the team in 26 and Quay was not, I could believe that they decided to spend the money elsewhere and go with like Cooper and Hopper at linebacker next year, something like that. And that Simmons was brought back as a depth piece and a special teams guy. I could believe that. I would not believe that Simmons was in place of Quay Walker. The weirdest thing I found from the rewatches you had the biggest needs for this offseason was going to be D tackle. That seems to be the one area we really didn't address. You also had linebacker depth. So yeah, I still felt like D tackle was going to be one of those positions where they definitely needed to take a look at things. But Green Bay did not feel that way. It's a really interesting one that they did not feel the same. Just finished my rewatch of the 24 seasons and the penalties of the of the 24 season. I'm like, for some reason, I thought you meant like you watched 24 seasons of Packers football. I'm like, that is dedicated. And then my second thought was like, did you recently watch the TV show 24? Like, that's a different conversation altogether. With Jack Bauer. Just finished my rewatch of the 2024 season, and the penalties and drops on third down killed so many drives. Hopefully the focus is to clean that up this season. Totally agree, Tristan. I was born with celiac disease and can't have any wheat flour, but I can in Europe. So one day I'm going to go there and just eat everything for the first time. Yeah, that's a really interesting dynamic with people who have gluten allergies can go overseas and eat all of the, sort of gluten-y foods like carbs over there and not have any issue. So I think the pizza pasta over there is just top notch. I've only been to Italy and Spain, so I can't speak for everywhere else, but my food experience in both countries has been phenomenal so far. So yeah, highly recommend. And hopefully, I'm sorry that you have to deal with celiac disease, but yeah, it's an interesting dynamic with the gluten stuff in the United States. That's for sure. All right, friends, that's going to do it for me. Appreciate you guys being here. I'll be back next week with another members only Q&A. Our last week next week with not having Packers training camp or something Packers live to actually talk about. So members Q&A next week, happy hour this Friday. I'll see you guys there. Thanks again for being here today. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.